that the Earth is
about gender identity. Gender is something that is taught to us. It's not something that we are born with. Gender is taught to us from the moment we are born. Culture determines gender. Gender is put upon us.
Well, let's take a look at that assumption that gender is all taught to us and that it's put upon us. Let's look at gender and the brain. So we're going to look at some interesting, I think this is one of the most interesting parts of the chapter, is they found sex differences in childhood behavior. So boys and girls, typically many boys play with their cars, trains, balls, and guns and play roughly. Many girls play with dolls and tea sets and play cooperatively. Preferences tend to be consistent over time, partially due to socialization, but also due to general preferences of each sex. So I personally thought that this particular portion of the chapter was really interesting, and I searched out and I found you a short video just to back this study up. But they gave monkeys toys, and the monkeys had not been socialized, and they wanted to see, do boy monkeys tend to pick certain toys, and do girls monkeys tend to pick other toys. And this is a chart, and as you can see, the male monkeys were more likely to pick boy toys, and the female monkeys were more likely to pick girl toys. It's interesting that female monkeys had neutral toys a huge amount, more than anything. All right, let's check out this short video supporting this study.
a recreation of an experiment conducted with monkeys and gender-specific toys.
In the original experiment, the psychologist presented the monkeys with typical boy-type toys, trucks and cars, and girl-type toys, mostly dolls. The psychologist then observed which toys the monkeys preferred to play with, and for what length of time.
Okay. Oh, so we've got a male picking up a truck. That is quite interesting.
That's quite funny.
See, he's gone for the truck. But yeah, we'll see if he comes.
He started moving the wheels a bit, which is kind of surprising.
A few more coming over now.
Yeah. So, who's picking up the car over there?
So that's another male. Yeah, spinning the wheels.
Yeah, spinning the wheel. Any girls in on the action yet?
So yeah, this is a girl there, so Zoe, going for the doll.
Going for the doll.
Quite interesting, isn't she? And then this is also a female here, just called Blondie. The way they investigate it is they'll kind of hold it up, sniff it, chew on it.
And so far the boys have really only displayed interest in the truck.
Yeah, they've kind of just picked up the trucks.
Oh, he's climbed on the truck.
Yeah, he sat on the truck.
He obviously thinks that's kind of a bit like a car, isn't it? In the original experiment, the male monkeys played with the male-type toys for twice as long as they did with the female-type toys.
So that's a little boy just having a look at that doll there.
Yeah.
He's not sure, is he?
No. Our results were even more clear-cut. The males barely touched the dolls, while the females showed hardly any interest in the trucks. Trucks don't seem to turn these girls on very much.
No, they're not really interested, are they?
Although this experiment was controversial, it has been conducted multiple times across many different primate species, getting the same results. In fact, one of the species it was conducted on was humans.
Trond Diseth er avdelingsoverlege og professor ved barneklinikken Rikshospitalet og jobber med barn som født med misdannede kjønnsorganer. Og som et ledd I å kunne fastslå om barnet en gutt eller en jente, bruker Diseth en leketest.
Vi har definert 10 ulike leker. Det 4 feminine leker. Det 4 maskuline definerte leker. Og så det såkalte nøytrale leker. Disse til sammen 10 lekene plasseres i et bestemt mønster. Og så sitter vi med videoopptak og observerer barn i berøring av leken. Og det vi da ser klare forskjeller mellom friske gutter og jenter fra 9 måneders alder og oppover. I forhold til at gutter velger maskuline leker, jenter velger feminine leker.
This method is used to determine intersex children's actual sex, so the deformed genitalia can be fixed. Also, this test was conducted on infants who couldn't have been socialized to favor one toy over the other.
So this is another part where we talked about the organizing effects of the hormones in the womb, and they saw some differences in childhood behavior and prenatal hormones. So girls who were born to women with high testosterone levels while pregnant showed a slightly elevated preference for typical boy toys. Boys born to women with high phenolate found in perfumes, food packagings, etc. levels while pregnant showed more interest in typical girl toys. Toy preferences seem to be a result of both prenatal hormones and childbearing experiences. So I think that we have to take that very first video clip and say, oh, we could be born with some preferences. So throughout these past videos that we've been talking about organizing effects, we talked about the organizing effects of hormones in prenatal development for the genitals, which abnormalities could lead to intersexuality. And then we talked about hormone levels during more of the second trimester of pregnancy. We looked at their role in sexual orientation. And I think it's only fair that we also talk about another gender difference, which could possibly be related to prenatal hormones when we're seeing these patterns right here, and it's called transgender. So they found differences in the male and female brains. We're also going to see a video about white matter and gray matter and some research that they have found on transgendered individuals. So here we go. Prenatal androgens and estrogens influence many aspects of brain development. They stimulate brain areas important for memory. So that's something. Female memory seems to be different than male memory. At least 85 genes are more active in the brain of one sex than the other. 85. Differences exist between men and women in size in certain brain areas. So we talked about the hypothalamus in one of the previous modules. We'll see something about gray matter and white matter in just a minute. Here's some interesting in behavior that I thought that I would bring up that is found in your textbook is women seem to be better able to recognize the facial expressions of emotion. And in a future module, we're going to be talking about the evolutionary theory of sexual differences, mating strategies, and this may be something that helped our offspring survive, since females do have the babies, and females breastfeed the babies and care for the babies. Remember, when we learn about the evolutionary theory, we're talking about kind of caveman times before we became a socialized society, and they since the females usually have the primary care of infants, and infants can't talk well until, their speech is not really well until around 2. They can start around 1, but it's not going to be really recognizable completely accurately until like maybe 2 and some later. So maybe the genes that have survived better are that women can recognize facial emotions better to understand what the child needs. Then it's interesting that women receiving testosterone injections became less accurate at recognizing facial expressions of anger, and there's a nice picture in your textbook about that. Increased testosterone decreased women's ability to infer a person's mood from watching their eyes. So there's something that's a behavioral pattern that they found that seems to be pretty pronounced difference between males and females. In this next portion of this module, I'd like to talk about transgender and how it may be related to organizing effects of hormones. What a transgender person is a person whose gender identity does not match their birth sex. Let's watch a video on what it means to be transgendered right now.
We explain gender and what it means to be transgender. Meet Kayla. Her friend Adam recently came out as transgender, but she's unsure what that means. Adam, happy to explain, lets her know that first she must recognize the difference between gender and sex in order to comprehend what it means to be transgender. Kayla is confused because she thought gender and sex were the same thing. But Adam informs her that they are very different. Sex is what everyone is biologically born as, male, female, or in some cases, intersex. In contrast, gender, which is separate from sexual orientation, is how we express masculinity and femininity. Think of a linear scale with femininity on one side and masculinity on the other. Instead of emoting one or the other based on sex, people can move throughout the gender scale freely and express various degrees of both at will, despite their biological anatomy. Since Kayla's sex and gender identity match, she is considered cisgender. However, transgender people have a gender identity that doesn't match their assigned sex at birth. In Adam's case, he identifies as a trans man, even though his assigned sex was female. Excited to learn more, Kayla wonders, is transgender a third gender? No. Adam reveals that it is an umbrella term that can be used for someone who identifies with the opposite sex, such as Adam, or it can refer to other various genders that aren't exclusively masculine or feminine. This includes bigender, people who identify with two genders, pangender, people who identify with all genders, and even agender, people who are genderless. Ultimately, people can choose from many terms and definitions they think represents their gender identity and also matches their self-expression. With so many different genders, Kayla is uncertain what pronouns she should use. Adam clarifies that it depends on each person's preference. If unsure, there is nothing wrong with asking. Still curious, Kayla wants to know, do all transgender people automatically get hormone therapy and gender reassignment surgery? Adam explains that being transgender does not rely on a physical change. It's about identifying and expressing oneself based on how they feel. If they do seek medical assistance to transition, then they would be called transsexual. Additionally, Adam tells Kayla that he wants to educate the public about what it means to be transgender in order to fight the consistent discrimination they face. Transgender people have come a long way on the path to acceptance. However, they still have a difficult journey ahead. They must find the strength and confidence to embrace who they are while combating social stigma that can even influence friends and family. Kayla now understands that being transgender doesn't follow the current status quo, but that's okay. She plans to educate her friends and family to help spread
into two different sections based off of the two different types of tissues that make up the brain, called gray and white matter. And when we look at the brains of the two sexes, we see the ratios of gray to white matter are different. White matter refers to the light-colored neural networks in the brain that affect how the brain learns, where gray matter is the dark-colored sections that affect cognition and processing information. So when it comes to the differences, men have roughly 6.5 times more gray matter than women, and women have roughly 10 times more white matter than men. I'm sure you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with people who are transgender? Well, as it turns out, someone who is transgender has a gray to white matter ratio that matches the gender that they feel they are, as opposed to the one that they were born with. This was initially discovered through autopsy, and has recently been observed through the use of MRI scans. A study published in the Journal of Psychiatric Research examined the brains of 18 untreated FTM trans people. Untreated meaning they hadn't yet begun the transition. This was to ensure that their brains were not influenced by external hormones. The results were compared to 24 male and 19 female heterosexual controls. The researchers found that the white and gray matter structures in the brain matched the gender that they identified with instead of the sex that they were born with. Similar studies have been conducted only to get similar results. There are also many parts of the brain that are sexually dimorphic and have been examined to show that yes, people who are transgender have the brain of the opposite sex. This is a real medical condition that has been well documented by physicians and scientists alike, called gender dysphoria. The best way to treat this dysphoria is with hormone treatment. This dysphoria, or the feeling of being in the wrong body, occurs when hormones distinct to one sex interact with the brain of the opposite sex. And because people with gender dysphoria have the wrong brain in the wrong body, they have the wrong hormones affecting the wrong brain as well. So by changing these hormones, you can help remove this dysphoria. For some, however, they need more to deal with it, so they may undergo a sex change operation.
After seeing a few of those videos, I thought that I would bring up some interesting effects of hormones, because after this module we're going into activating effects, and the first activating effect video that we're going to be going over does cover testosterone, and I wanted to show you some interesting effects of testosterone. And personally, I feel that testosterone creates much larger activating effects than the estrogen, and I'll let you be the judge for that. Okay, so what we're going to look at is we're going to look at some picture of transgender, some pictures that relate to the concept of transgender. So here is a female to male transgender, and a lot of times the male to female are more in the spotlight, and I feel like that as far as passing, that's the term that they use, passing, I feel that females to males pass a little bit more easily than males to females. And it could be related to the power of testosterone. So what's happening here is this is a person that is taking testosterone, and then they took their labia and they sewed it together and they put in prosthetic testicles. But do you see how this clitoris is larger because of the activating effect of testosterone? So this happened later in life, and transsexuals have to take their hormones regularly, and the hormones induced a small penis, a micro penis, coming from the clitoris. So here again, I'm trying to show you the power of testosterone. So the transgendered people are using the testosterone to maintain their masculinity, and I just wanted to show you the difference, the power of testosterone, and see what you think about the power of testosterone versus the power of more of the female hormones. So this is the female, and then this is the male. So the face changed noticeably from the testosterone. Let's look at another one. Here's the female. Here's the male. Not sure if that one is as pronounced. I think my next one is very pronounced. Okay, there's the female. And this is the male. I find them very difficult to recognize. I think the power of testosterone is so enormous, but it's okay. I don't know. So there's the female, and there's as the male. All of these pictures used to be females, and now they are males. This one has actually had 3 children and then decided to go ahead and have the sex change. So this is also someone that used to be a female. A lot of people don't believe that. So while the testosterone seems to masculinize them very well with the hair and the bodies and the facial structure, the genital reassignment surgery, I feel, is not as good for the female to male. when you see a male to female, the reconstruction of the vagina is very good. Very, very good. I've showed my sexuality classes and they can't tell the difference between a before and after. Is they take the penis and they turn it up inside, so they do have a vagina, and they can recreate the outside of the genitals to match almost perfectly to a female genitals, but they haven't been able to reconstruct the penises in the same way that they can construct the female genitalia. Maybe in the future they'll get better and better at that. I feel that the female to male body type also it transfers better. Like many of the females that transfer over to a male body type, their bodies look very male. Whereas when the males transition to female, sometimes their waist to hip ratio it cannot be brought to the same level. Their hands tend to be a little bit bigger, their facial bones a little bit bigger, and this is really interesting to share with you as I was really surprised to hear this myself, but then when they told me the reasons for this, I understood it better. Is nowadays when someone feels like they are transgender before puberty, they're actually starting to transition before puberty. And I had always thought, no, you should wait until your puberty or your second phase of organizing effects your teenage brain to see exactly how you're feeling. And so I was surprised that they're allowing that before their full puberty happens. But then the reasoning why is if they know from such an early age, a very early childhood age, and they've gone through all the psychological testing and so on and so forth, converting the hormones over before their puberty hormones stops those long-term organizing effects from happening, so they don't get the larger hands, so they can control the waist to hip ratio and so on and so forth. So here is, I'm contrasting those past photos with these here to show you like the difference between activating effects of testosterone and activating effects of like feminine hormones, maybe a combination estrogen, progesterone, so on and so forth. Is these are the males and then this is the female. So for me, these are much more recognizable. To me, they just look like the same face with some makeup on and longer hair. I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I'm just sharing with you my thoughts. Whereas when we went through the testosterone ones, it seemed that their whole facial structure changed. It seemed very, very pronounced. What we'll be doing is we will be going over more about these activating effects of hormones.